Alrighty, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I assume more people will be joining as we move along, but really quickly, let me just introduce myself. My name is Elena Anaboso, and I am a senior admissions counselor here on our community engagement team. And I am so excited to give you all a little more information about TCU, as well as giving some tips and tricks about how you can best prepare for your senior year. I assume most of you are current high school juniors or parents, and I'm grateful that you were willing to join. You should already have our contact information, but should you have questions during the webinar, there is a place where it says Q&A, and you can type your questions in there. And we will happily answer any questions that come in. In the meantime, let us get started with a little bit of TCU trivia. So this will come by. This is just a little fun way for us to get started. We want you to know more about TCU, of course, and a great way to do that is a little trivia game. So I will start a poll that coordinates with our first question. So feel free to answer the poll. And the question is, what year was TCU founded? There is only one right answer. I'll give you all a few minutes or seconds to respond. So far, we've only got 6 responses, but they all are correct. So if you know the answer, great. If not, that's okay too. We're going to tell you the answer. All right, I'm going to end it in about 3 more seconds. So anybody else who wants to join, do it quickly. All right. What year was TCU founded? That was 1873. So good job, everyone. I think we had 100% correct. Hopefully that's how you're feeling right now during your junior year. I bet finals are coming up and state testing, all the fun things. I hope you're doing great on that. All right, our next question is, what is the name of our horned frog mascot? Again, I'm going to start another poll, and you can feel free to answer. I'll let it go for about 30 seconds. This one's a little bit easier. There's only 3 options instead of 4. So hopefully we all get it correct. Okay, just a few more seconds. Only 9 of you have responded. So if anybody else wants to join in, please join in on the fun. All right. The name of our horned frog mascot is Super Frog. Maybe you've seen him at a school event or on TV. I know Super Frog had some dance battles during March Madness, so maybe you met him then. We love Super Frog. And our very last trivia question, let me get that poll going for us. What athletic conference does TCU compete in? Again, we were in March Madness, so maybe you know some of our other peers in our conference. In the men's league, just to give you a hint, we did have somebody representing our conference in the final 2 in the grand finale yesterday evening. Let's see. Okay, we've got a lot of right answers here. Let me show you. The right answer is the Big 12. Fun times. It's a really great way for students to get involved on campus by participating in all of our athletic events. We do participate in basketball, men's and women's. We have baseball, football, lots of different options as far as what students can get involved in. All right. Enough about trivia. Next, we're going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to show you the agenda for the day or for the evening. So For starters, we'll start talking about how to prepare for college selection process. We know that's coming up for all of our high school juniors, and so we want to make sure that you're prepared for that and you kind of have an idea of what you should be thinking about as you prepare for college. Then we'll give you a brief admission timeline, and that's just going to be specific to TCU. So if you're considering other colleges, please feel free to reach out to them and figure out their timelines, as each college is a little bit different. Then we'll talk more about tips of how you can prepare for your senior year, what you should be spending your time on over this summer, and other things like that. We'll meet a current Horned Frog a Horned Frog student, and she is actually already on the call with us. Her name is Dulce, but I will reintroduce her as time gets closer, and then we'll have a few closing remarks. All right, so for starters, when you are starting the college process or the college search process, it's a research. It's not something that's an easy, I don't want to scare any of you. It's not an easy process. It is a lengthy process, but if you start now, you have plenty of time to give yourself enough time to make the right decision for you and your family. So when you are creating your list of school, these are some things you might want to consider. Location is really important. Some people like to go far, far away from home. So other people like to stay close. Size of school is very important. Some of us prefer like the smaller cohorts where we know for sure who our professor is and our professor knows us. The cost of attendance is going to be important regardless of who you are. Campus culture is important. Will I fit in? Who will be my friends? Where can I find clubs and other organizations? Application dates and deadlines. And what is the institution known for? Do they have the major that I'm interested in? And is that major even accredited? What is accreditation? That type of thing. So accreditation, just really quick side note, this might be a little more important if you're doing something more technical like business or nursing, teaching. You really need to make sure that you're going to be able to get certified after you complete the program to work in those respective fields. So that's something to consider when you're considering your major, as well as the university that you're looking at. Okay, so kind of jumping straight into TCU and why you should consider TCU. For me, the main thing that sticks out to me is this mission statement. TCU is an institution and a very mission-driven institution, and our mission is to educate individuals to think and act as ethical leaders and responsible citizens in the global community. So really, what does that mean? Okay, first of all, spoiler alert, education really is the reason that we come to TCU. Of course, there's lots of ways to have fun, lots of distractions, good distractions. Not all distractions are bad things, but really this education is the most important part that we have to offer students. And then I really love looking into this becoming leaders and responsible citizens, and then acknowledging that we are a global community. Texas, of course, great state. 10 out of 10 recommend. I live in Fort Worth and I do think it's the best city on earth. I'm sorry, I'm a little biased. No shade to anybody from other cities on the call. But we do recognize that it's not the only place on earth, and you might not want to end up in Fort Worth, and that's totally fine. We are going to do our best, and this is our promise that we'll do our best to prepare you wherever it is you want to end up. We have students who graduate and end up in Houston or New York, California. We even have students across the globe in Panama and Brazil, like anywhere that you are interested in going, we want to make sure you're ready to go there. So what does TCU really look like? So I know that before I mentioned some things you might want to note on your list of colleges is their size. So one great thing about TCU's size is that we have about 10,000 undergraduate students. So basically that means we're a mid-sized university, which means that you're gonna know your colleagues, you're gonna know your peers, excuse me. We have a 13-to-1 student to faculty ratio. That means that students have access to resources because they don't really have to compete with other students. Some schools have high student to faculty ratios, which means that there is less opportunity when it comes to having access to those resources. But at TCU, our goal is to maintain that small feel so that you can really build and foster community here at TCU. Our average class size is about 26 students, which in general, I would say is pretty common to some of the high schools we see around us, even across the nation. So yes, it is a different experience, and classes will be different once you get to college. But it is nice to know that you'll have that small feeling. Your professors are going to know your name. Um, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, your professors are going to notice whether or not you're in class. And I personally believe that's a really great thing because it really helps you not only have that community, but have that sense of accountability to your community. Then we have about 90 different countries represented on campus by way of our student body. And we have a 93% retention rate. So what does that mean? I think these last two statistics that I've just shared show more about our campus culture and our community of connectedness. This 93% retention rate, really something that drives that retention rate is the fact that students are expected to live on campus. We do have a on-campus requirement for first and second year. If you live within a 30-mile radius, you can request a waiver. However, I do find that students who decide to live on campus tend to have a happier and more connected experience. And we've been ranked #1 happiest students across the nation. And so I think that really proves TCU's culture and ability to provide unique experiences for students to really have that sense of community. And then finally, we are located in Fort Worth, Texas. Like I said, I do believe it's the best city on earth. But these are some great statistics about Fort Worth. We do have the #1 fastest growing metro for jobs in the US, and we are the 11th largest city in the US, and #2 for best metro tech jobs. So all that to say that this is kind of a good example of where you can start when you're building that college list of where you think you might want to end up. Now, I know when you originally see this, you'll see the tuition and fees, books, housings, and food. And so that's like housing and meal plans, as well as the total cost of attendance. Now, I know it can be a bit scary when you see it. And I hope that this number does not deter any of you from applying. Why? Because we have a great system in place. Our financial aid office works diligently to make sure that 85% of our students receive some sort of financial aid. This past year, we were able to offer $250 million in merit and need-based scholarships, and 70% of our students graduate debt-free. Now, you might think that's totally going to be impossible for you. But I hope that doesn't deter you from applying because, like I said, we have many different programs and colleagues, representatives who are willing to work with you and really want to make sure that we do our part in making sure that TCU can become a reality for you and your family. All right, moving forward to our dates and deadlines. Of course, this might not be relevant to you right at this moment, but it is something to start thinking about, something you can write down right now. Our first year admission application does open on August 1st, so that would be August 1st of your senior year. And the first deadline won't be until November 1st, again during your senior year, where you have the option to submit your application as early action or early decision 1. So the biggest difference between early action and early decision is that with the early decision, there is a binding contract. The binding contract will have a signature from the student, a parent, or guardian, as well as a counselor from your high school. This notification says, I 100%, no matter financial aid outcome, no matter academic merit scholarships. I 100% will be at TCU in the fall, and I hope that I get accepted so that it can become a reality. Now, if you are not willing to sign that binding contract, that's totally fine. We still want you to apply. Early action is going to be a really great option for you. It basically shows us how excited you are about TCU. And I recommend to most students to apply early action. The great thing if you apply early action or early decision 1 is that you'll hear back from us by January 1st. Now, we do have a secondary deadline on February 1st where you can apply regular decision or early decision 2. There's still that distinguishing factor of one being a binding contract and one not being a binding contract. But of course, this is still a really good option. The one thing I want you to note, if you wait until February 1st to apply, so this would be February 1st of 2026, you will not hear back from us until March 3rd or April 1st if you're doing regular decision. Now, why is that relevant? So our next biggest deadline, which is actually a national deadline, comes up on May 1st. Oops, it's not on my slideshow. And the May 1st deadline is actually a national date where you have to commit to whatever college it is you decide to go to. So that's why I recommend applying early action, because then you have time from January 1st when you receive your admission decision until May 1st to decide if you really can make TCU a reality. Of course, if you choose to do it later, we will still work as diligently as we can to make sure that by May 1st you're ready to commit. But it does give us more time on the back end to make sure everything is aligned. Now, what is TCU considering when we're looking at your application? We do take a holistic approach to the review process, which means that we don't just want to see your academics. Of course, academics are important and they are the biggest chunk of this pie chart that you're looking at. Of course, that we're going to learn all we can about your academics through your high school transcript. Okay, so we'll learn things about your rigor, as well as your GPA, of course, some of your electives, whether they're relevant to your career goals, etc. We also are going to look at your co-curriculars. So what have you done outside of the classroom? Of course, we love a student who has performed academically, but we really want to know that you're a person outside of the classroom. Do you have hobbies? What are your interests? Have you joined clubs? Have you participated in sports? There's many different examples of co-curriculars. So really take the time on your resume as well as the activities portion in the Common App to describe your co-curriculars and really tell us who you are. The application process is really for you to help us get to know you. And that's what I love about working at TCU is we really are considering you as a student and we want to know why TCU is the best place for you. Then we're going to also look at your essays. Please take time on these essays. I know it can be a tedious process, but if you have a good mentor, a good high school counselor who can help you edit those essays, I really recommend it. The more eyes on your essay, the better I find. And then finally, we do require one teacher and one counselor recommendation. All right, so sorry, I know that I just spoke for a really long time about a lot of things, but I hope that you all understand the process a little bit better from that and also have a better idea of what to expect as your senior year approaches. Now, I know summer is coming, and so maybe you're not thinking as heavily into your academics, and that's fine, but there is still some preparation you can do academically that will help you when you start your college application process. My number one recommendation is to find a mentor. So what do you look for when you're looking for a mentor? First of all, you want someone who's going to hold you accountable. This is somebody who maybe you tell the dates and deadlines and they help you stay in check so that way all those dates and deadlines are met. Someone who can help you edit your resume or even your essays. Like I said, it could be a high school counselor, it could be an English teacher, it could be a parent, it could be a friend that you know is a great creative writer. Anybody who can help get eyes on those things is really going to help you make sure that you are highlighting all the skills and the things that you've done throughout your high school career. You also want somebody who knows your strengths and can help you highlight them, right? I know a lot of times when we do our resumes, we're like, okay, I participated in basketball. And you tell us how much time you committed to basketball, but we don't know anything else about that. So what more can you tell us about your experience with basketball, for example? Were you a leader on your team? Were you the cheerleader? Did you help boost morale? What was it about that experience that you really learned? And then of course, maintain your academic standing during your senior year. Senior year, yes, I know is going to be a fun year, but that should not be a year to rest. You really want to be still pushing yourself, still taking those AP IB credits, or honors courses. And then make sure you're taking courses that align with your career goals, right? So if I want to be a business major, maybe all of my classwork isn't going to be in the anatomy, physiology sphere. Or if I want to do the opposite, if I want to do nursing, I'm not taking a bunch of math business classes, right? So really try to figure out how you can balance your academic schedule in your senior year to align with whatever your career goals might be. Now, if you don't know what you want to study, that's totally fine, of course. Do your best in whatever classes it is you're taking. But really try to hone in on what you think your skills are, and what you think your interests might be. And then finally, talk to your teachers. They are there to help you, and they will have plenty of pointers about how you can start preparing to maintain a college course load. Like I mentioned earlier, it is different being in high school versus college, but it's not impossible. And you have the tools right at your fingertips of people who are ready to help. And of course, we are here to help as we can. Now, let's talk a little bit more about showing off your soft skills. I know I talked a little bit about resumes already, but really, we want you to be participating in resume building experiences. It's not for us, I promise. It's really for you so that you can become a more well-rounded version of yourself. But then you're going to use your resume to highlight what you've gained from experience, right? We want you to tell us things like, I've been a leader in this capacity, or I've done whatever it is that you've done, we need to know it. And the only way we can know it is through your resume. Of course, your essay will give us additional opportunities to see that. And of course, the letters of recommendation as well. But it does carry a lot of weight if you can recognize those skills within yourself and tell us about them. And then, of course, still join your clubs, participate in those curriculars, excuse me. And again, align them with your career goals and your personal strengths. And then practice accountability. I know this might be a hard one for some of us. Learn to overcome procrastination. I still to this day struggle with procrastination. But the better you can be at managing your time and really sticking to a schedule is going to be so beneficial to you once you get to college. And I guarantee you that when we ask Dulce some questions, she'll have some pointers on keeping on task. And then finally, track all your important dates and deadlines in one place. It means a lot to write your dates and deadlines down, but if you can't find them in a pinch, that makes it a little more difficult when it comes time to making sure that everything is submitted on time. All right. Now, I know I've spoken a lot and that was a lot of information. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, we are available in Q&A. So if you have questions, please let us know. But let's get to know Dulce a little bit better. Dulce is actually a junior at TCU and she currently majors in nursing with a minor in child development. She's actively involved on campus as a TCU Ranger, lead resident assistant, member of the Order of Omega, which is a Greek honor society, and a member of the Panhellenic sorority. She's also she is an intern for the Office of Admissions and a TCU ambassador. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can see Dulce's beautiful face. Hi, Dulce, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are y'all?
I'm great. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. I am going to start by having you tell us a little bit more about why you chose your major.
Okay. So my major is nursing, and I kind of had like a long route of what I chose. So for starters, I know Elena mentioned to like have a mentor. In high school, I had a mentor who was my APUSH teacher, and he was also the one that wrote my recommendation letter for like my universities. And when I spoke to him initially, I was thinking about doing education, but through our like conversation, he pretty much was like, "Hey, I know this is what you were thinking, but I've always envisioned you as a nurse." And I know we're like, "Wait, but he talked you out of your original major." Not really, because he already knew me for like 2 years and he kind of knew that, like, based on my personality and who I am, that nursing was a better career for me. And also growing up, I'm really close to my family. My grandparents, when I was growing up, they were constantly in and out of the hospital. And the number one healthcare professional that I always saw was a nurse. And just seeing like how a nurse is essential in like that patient relationship because they're the ones that the family interacts with, I was like, okay, this is something that I want to like learn more about. And it's still my major till this day. So
I love to hear that. But it is common for university students to change their major, and that's totally okay too. So moving forward, my next question is, how did you decide to attend TCU?
so I when I was applying to colleges, I had like a list of what I wanted out of the college experience. And originally I really wanted to go out of state because I've lived in Texas my whole entire life. But I, like Elena, am a huge procrastinator. I didn't commit to TCU until May 1st. And the reason being was the day that the deadline was coming up, my mom really wanted me to come to TCU. She wasn't ready to let me go. I'm the baby of the family. And so she gave me her own walking tour of TCU. And while we were walking by, there was a girl in her purple scrubs. And everyone was like, go up to her and ask her questions because, like, the way you can distinguish a TCU nursing major is because of the purple scrubs. So I went up there and thankfully she answered her questions because I was like, if someone comes up to me and it's dark, I would walk the other way. But she answered my questions and just hearing her talk about like what TCU nursing has done for her and like how the professors are very hands-on and they really care about your success. I was like, okay, it's a sign she was placed here for a reason. And I was like, there's no way she's lying. Like you could literally see her eyes light up when I asked her questions about nursing. And so ultimately I was like, okay, I'm gonna commit to TCU. And ever since I fell in love more with TCU.
I love that. I think also like being able to walk up to somebody in purple scrubs and ask them questions shows what campus community really is. Like I feel like that could have been anyone at any time. If you go and talk to someone, they will always have an answer for you. So I love that too about campus. What would you say, or what have you noticed to be the biggest difference between being a high school student and a university student?
I feel like one of the differences is that in high school, your schedule is kind of made for you. So there's more of a structure that like your school implements. But like in college, it's really up to the student to keep a structure. For example, like in high school, you have a designated lunch break and you have your designated classes. But like in college, you have to make time for that. And so sometimes I hear a lot of people, they're like, I had all 8 a.m.s in high school. I'm going to survive in college doing that. Not necessarily because in college you have to implement, some people have on-campus jobs, so they have to find a way to implement that. They also have clubs and organizations, so you have to find a way to find time to study and still make time for your job and your clubs and also time to socialize with your friends. So I would say that's like one of the biggest differences, just the structure, because it's based on the student and how they like to schedule their time.
I love that. I love that you brought up clubs and organizations. Can you tell us a little bit more about clubs and organizations that you're engaged with and like what motivated you to join them? And then, sorry, I know this is a long question, but how has that impacted your college experience?
Mhm. Yeah. So I knew that like before coming to TCU, I'm a very shy person. I know it probably doesn't come off like that in the Zoom call, but I'm very shy and reserved. And I was like, I need to do something to put myself out there to get to know people. So I chose to rush during the summer just because I was like, this will give me an opportunity to get to know people. I did that, and then that introduced me to some people. And then my sophomore year, I was still kind of like, I feel like there's still more to TCU that I haven't seen. And so now that I had more of an idea of what my schedule looked like and I was more comfortable with like how I study and stuff like that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a leap of faith. I'm going to try out for the Rangers. And so I made it on the TCU Rangers, and I feel like that's really impacted my experience here at TCU. The TCU Rangers is one of the spirit committees here at TCU. And so I have had wonderful opportunities to be able to cheer on the Horned Frogs in football games, basketball games, and baseball and stuff like that. And through that organization, I met other people that I had already seen around in campus, but I never imagined being friends with them. And not only that, through that organization, I mean, they helped me learn how to like interview skills, because you have to like learn how to be in front of a camera for the TC Rangers. So I'm like more poised in my like speech and stuff like that. But yeah.
That's funny. I wouldn't think interview skills to be something that comes from a spirit squad, but I love that. Like it shows that you can learn anything anywhere. Um, Thank you for sharing that. Kind of moving back, or moving deeper into that, what advice do you have in regards to like making friends and building a social network at TCU?
Yeah. Please don't be shy. I know sometimes we were like, oh, like I don't really know if I should interact with people. You won't meet people unless you put yourself out there. And one of my biggest recommendations is to join a club during your time here at TCU. You don't have to join 100 clubs. When you start as a TCU student, they have a club fair where you learn about a bunch of different clubs. Choose the one that you're passionate about, because you'll meet people who are also passionate about that club, because they'll be members in that club. And then, so that's one of my like biggest advice. Also, don't be shy. Like there's frog camp, and during orientation, you'll meet a group of people. I to this day is still in contact with the girl who I was roommates during orientation. And so you just pretty much have to put yourself out there, because if you don't communicate, no one will really be able to know what you're thinking or what your interests are.
Yeah, my mom always said closed mouths don't get fed. So open your mouth, you'll find people. I really like what you mentioned about when we were talking more about the clubs that you joined, that you said you joined one your first year and then you were like, okay, I think I need to find more. And so your second year you've joined another one. Like I really love that you can be involved in more than one club at a time, but maybe it's good to like scaffold them so that way you're not doing it all at once. All right, moving to challenges. I know you're very smiley right now, but I know that university doesn't come without challenges. So can you tell us a little more about the biggest challenge you faced in your transition from high school to TCU or being a university student?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, I would say the biggest challenge that I faced was, again, making like a structured schedule, because I was so used to like in high school having a designated time of like I have class during this time. I had like a study hall class that was offered in my high school. And then in college, I had to make time for that. And so it was a huge like challenge for me at first, because I was like, I don't know how many hours I should study. But I think one of the benefits that I had was that I was comfortable contacting my professors. And I think that's one of the good benefits that TCU has. All the professors here really want to see you succeed. And I've never had like a bad professor experience, because I remember my freshman year, I like contacted my sociology professor, because that's the one I felt more comfortable asking him to help me out. And he immediately explained to me like how studying works during college. I learned a lot through him. And I think just because I was confident in my interaction with him, later on, I was able to contact other professors. And I was able to form more friendships with other professors, so that they could also help me navigate their class and like learn how to study for their specific class.
Love that. Kind of on the same thing, on the same wavelength. What is something you wish you had known before you started the university, like before you started as a college student?
Okay, I was like, we have good questions.
Thank you.
Um, One thing that I wish I would have known before coming to TCU is to not stress out over the little things. Like I was a huge perfectionist before coming to college. I was like, I have to do all this. But I think college really teaches you to embrace those mistakes that you make, because one mistake isn't gonna like be the end of the world. Sometimes you have to make mistakes in order to learn from them. So for example, like in my like first exam, I was like, okay, I'm gonna study just like purely like 2 days in advance. I'm just going to memorize everything. Like I still did fine, but then at the same time, I later on learned that studying 2 days before isn't the best route to do it. And then I was able to learn like, hey, maybe I should instead of like stressing out about this one grade, maybe I should see where I failed and learn from there. And like now I have a like perfect study routine that has worked with me ever since I was a sophomore up until my junior year.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it's like kind of a process. It's not like a one size fit all solution, you know, you kind of have to learn as you go, and then it gets easier with time. Um, I wanted to ask you a little more about resources on campus. So whether that be tutoring, the library, study groups, what resources have you used to help you with your coursework, or which ones do you know about that you think could be helpful for incoming freshmen?
Mhm. So my like freshman year, I took anatomy and physiology because that's like a prereq for nursing. And I know there's like a tutoring service that's offered free for students here at TCU where they look at like the classes where there's a high percentage of students that drop the class. And so I did like an individual tutoring session with the tutor and pretty much she was able to walk me through the like questions that I had. So that was like the one that I used my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, it goes more into specifics because how TCU nursing works is that once you actually start like your nursing courses, they have their own set of tutors separate from like the ones that are offered in like the other tutoring services. They're still free for TCU nursing students, but through there, I made sure that like before an exam, like the day before an exam, I would join like the virtual Zoom that the tutor had, and I would just ask her last minute questions. I would have her quiz me on stuff, and that was very beneficial. But I also know like to give like more of a general answer as well for if students aren't like nursing majors, the TCU Math Lab exists. Like that's one of the things here offered on campus, and it's also free for students. You can have as many tutoring sessions that you want, and it's pretty much like if you're struggling in a math class, you can go in there, work your concepts out, or simply if you're struggling with your math homework, you can plan out like a study date, and they can like walk you through like the math equations that you have.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know if you mentioned the writing lab. I know that's another good resource that students have access to. Do you know how late the library is open by chance?
Yeah, so the library is open 24 hours for students. So I know after like a certain amount of time, it'll like the doors will lock. But with TCU, you'll have your TCU student ID, and there's like little swipes in the front of the library and like all entrances. And you just swipe your ID and it'll be open. So like if you need to pull an all-nighter, you can pull it. Like it's gonna be 24 hours open.
Hmm. Okay. I knew it was late. I just couldn't remember if it was 24 hours, but that is something to consider. Of course, we recommend sleeping during the night. But if you are a procrastinator and you need to access the library, it's always available to you. Um, the next question is more of like we're gonna shift more into advice that you have for high school juniors. How do you feel high school students can better prepare for the academic demands of being a college student?
I think for starters, just understanding that college is very different than high school. Oftentimes I've like seen a lot of like my peers are like, oh well, I got all straight A's in like high school. I'm gonna get all straight A's in college. And again, it's different because now in college you're gonna take classes that are more specific for your major. And so just keep that in mind because again, you have to learn from your mistakes in order to do better. Like not everyone's 100% gonna be perfect at everything. And so just don't be too harsh on yourself your freshman year. Like your freshman year, you're gonna learn how to study. You're gonna learn what time works best for you to take classes. Like some people I know cannot function taking 8 a.m.s, but they function perfectly taking an afternoon class. And so you just pretty much have to like college is a learning process. So please do not be hard on yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Dulce. I feel like you have answered so many good questions and with so many good responses. Lots of good ideas for juniors. Even some of the things we've mentioned today are good options to start considering now. Like Dulce talked about talking to her professor. You can talk to your teachers in high school and they're going to be there to help you. Like Dulce mentioned, she had a mentor in high school that really helped motivate her career path, right? So there are plenty of resources around you. It's really just being able to put your finger on which ones are going to be most effective for you. Any final words of wisdom, Dulce?
I just think when it comes to like, you guys are juniors, I'm like getting flashbacks to when I was a junior in high school. But I think just like sitting down and kind of making a list of what you want out of your college experience really helps out because there's like a bunch of colleges here in the United States of America, but not all of them will offer the same experience. So please make like a list of what you want out of the college experience, what major. Some colleges don't offer nursing. So by making that list, you can start narrowing down your choices. And then you can start looking at like, maybe I want to go to out of state, maybe I want to stay in state. And then that's when you start like touring the colleges. And after that, you kind of have like your list more structured.
Yeah, I love that. Great. Well, thank you so much. Um, all right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. In closing, I just wanted to share a few things. I know that in the chat we got a few questions, and I want to say thank you to Jessica Mascote. She is another member of our admission team who has been answering your questions in the Q&A. But I do want to mention we do host on-campus events. So if you have the opportunity to come to TCU, I really feel like it speaks for itself when you're on campus. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but Dulce's experience shows us exactly what that means, right? She came to campus, she wasn't sure about certain things, so she found a current student and asked them, you know, what should I do? And everybody out on campus is really friendly and easy to talk to. The link for campus tours has been sent out, I think, in the Q&A. But if you just type in online visit TCU, our link will also pop up, and we offer those daily. We also offer tours during the summer, and we have different events that you can find on our admission website, including Destination TCU, Monday at TCU, which are just different campus visit days where students can have you know, a more in-depth experience at TCU. In conclusion, I also want to share you will be receiving follow-up email about the session. So please give us your feedback. If you have additional items you wish you could learn more about, let us know. We're happy to host whatever types of events we can and whichever events are relevant to your needs. So please feel free to offer that feedback. And in closing, I just want to say, go Frogs. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a really great night.